What up, Bugles? I want to welcome you to this video and to our Comics Bugle channel, your go-to spot for everything omnibus and oversize. When you think about comic book storytellers who redefine both superhero and crime genre, one name towers above them all: Ed Brubaker. From his roots in indie comics to his era-defining runs at DC and Marvel, and finally to his celebrated creator-owned collaborations with Sean Phillips, Brubaker has built a career that feels less like a straight line and more like a noir narrative. Dark corners, unexpected twists, flayed characters, and a steady drive to uncover uncomfortable truths. This is the story of Ed Brubaker, how a Navy brat became one of the most respected writers in comics, Hollywood, and beyond. Ed Brubaker was born in 1966 in Bethesda, Maryland, the son of U.S. Navy intelligence officer. Growing up, his life was marked by constant movement, naval bases, foreign postings, and even a stint in Guantanamo Bay. The ruthless, unforgiving effect into his later fascination with outsiders, criminals, and people living in the shadows. He often mentioned that one of his earliest shocks as a reader came from discovering that Bucky Barnes, Captain America's sidekick, had been killed off in a single panel of an old Avengers comics. That moment of casual cruelty in a storytelling would stay with him. In the late 80s and early 90s, Brubaker entered the comics world the hard way, through small press and self-published work. Titles like Pajama Chronicles, Purgatory USA, and most notably Lowlife set the tone. Lowlife was raw, semi-autobiographical as slacker comics about alienated yacht. It wasn't polished, but it had authenticity. Around the same time, he produced a story called An Accidental Death with artist Eric Shanower, a moody crime tale that earned an Eisner nomination. Recognition was coming, and even if mainstream success was still far away. By the mid 90s, Brubaker was beginning to edge toward bigger publishers. For DC's Vertigo imprint, he wrote Press, Smells Like Teen President, a satirical one shot, and dabbled in other short projects. But his real breakthrough came at the end of the decade with a miniseries that showed exactly where his heart was headed. In 1999, Vertigo published Scene of the Crime, a detective noir drawn by Michael Lark and Sean Phillips. This was Brubaker in his element: a flawed private eye, a seedy underworld, and mystery with emotional weight. The series was critically acclaimed, and suddenly Brubaker wasn't just another indie creator, he was one of the freshest voices in crime comics. DC took notice. Soon, Brubaker was writing across multiple corners of their universe. He co-created Dead Enders, a vertical sci-fi book, and handled Sandman present Dead Boy Detectives. But his biggest DC assignments were waiting just around the corner. In 2002, DC launched Gotham Central, a series co-written by Ed Brubaker and Greg Rucka, with art by Michael Lark. The pitch was simple but brilliant. Tell stories about the Gotham City Police Department, the people who had to live and work in Batman's world without being superheroes themselves. The book became a cult classic, beloved for its grounded perspective. Brubaker and Raka treated Gotham like a real city, with real detectives facing real trauma. One of its most famous arcs, How the Life, won Eisner and Harry Awards for its portrayal of Renee Montoya's outing and struggles. At the same time, Brubaker was making his mark directly on Batman. He wrote arcs such as The Bruce Wayne Murderer and Bruce Wayne Fugitive, which pushed Batman into darker psychological territory. His stories weren't about flashy villains and high concept gimmicks. They were about paranoia, guilt, and fractured trust. Brubaker's Batman felt like a detective again, one living in a city that was suffocating him. He also revitalized Catwoman in 2001 alongside artist Darwin Cook. Together, they gave Selina Kyle a sleek, modern redesign and launched her into a critically praised ongoing series. For many readers, this was the definitive Catwoman of the 2000s. Smart, independent, and morally complex. Brubaker's DC period, Batman, Catwoman, Gotham Central, cemented him as one of the company's sharpest writers. But the next stage of his career would take him into even bigger territory. In 2004, Ed Brubaker made the jump to Marvel, and with it, he changed superhero comics forever. Taking over Captain America with artist Steve Epting, Brubaker did the unthinkable. He brought back Bucky Barnes. For decades, Bucky had been one of the few characters in comics deemed permanently dead. Brubaker's gamble was to resurrect him as the Winter Soldier, a brainwashed Soviet assassin with a cybernetic arm. What could have been a cheap gimmick turned into one of the most acclaimed modern Marvel storylines. The Winter Soldier wasn't just a shocking twist, he was a tragic figure embodying themes of lost innocence, Cold War paranoia, and the long shadow of history. Brubaker's Captain America became a critical and commercial hit, and his reinvention of Bucky would later fuel the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Brubaker's Marvel work wasn't limited to Cap. He wrote Daredevil after Brian Michael Bendis, keeping the title in the same gritty, crime-infused vein. He launched Immortal Fist with Matt Fraction, blending kung fu action with pulpy serial adventure. He penned X-Men Deadly Genesis, a controversial retcon that introduced the dangerous Vulcan as the hidden Summers brother. He even expanded Doctor Doom's origin in Books of Doom. But it was Captain America that defined his Marvel legacy. From the assassination of Steve Rogers during Civil War, to Bucky taking up the shield, to epic espionage arcs like the death of Captain America, Brubaker's run was modern Marvel at its best. Political, emotional, suspenseful, and never afraid to shake up the status quo. Now let's talk about his work with Sean Phillips. They produced Incognito, about a supervillain and witness protection. Fatale, which blended noir with Lovecraftian horror. The Fade Out, a Hollywood period piece set in the 1940s studio system. And Kill or Be Killed, a modern vigilante thriller about a young man compelled to murder. More recently, they've been releasing a series of original graphic novels under the Reckless banner, following a pulp-style fixer in 1980s Los Angeles. But their most notable work was Stories from World of Criminal, dark, edgy, and noir at its best. Their collaboration became the gold standard for modern crime comics. They proved that you didn't need capes or cosmic stakes to tell gripping stories, that human desperation and moral ambiguity were more than enough. Brubaker's influence soon extended beyond comics. His Winter Soldier storyline directly inspired the Marvel Studio film Captain America: The Winter Soldier in 2014, often cited as one of the best entries in the MCU. Brubaker even came out in this film as one of the scientists handling Bucky's conditioning, though he later admitted he wasn't compensated beyond a standard thank you check from Marvel, a controversy that sparked broader conversation about creators' rights in Hollywood adaptations. He also broke into television, starring in the writer's room for HBO's Westworld and co-creating the Amazon Prime series Too Old to Die Young. In 2022, he was tapped as a head writer and executive producer for the animated series Batman: Caped Crusader, reuniting him with the world of Gotham. Brubaker's writing is unmistakable. He blends the structure of crime fiction with the psychology of noir, always focusing on flawed human beings rather than flawless heroes. His characters are often trapped by trauma, by addiction, by guilt, by history. One fun anecdote: to promote his Wildstorm spy comic Sleeper in 2003, he held an arm wrestling contest at Isotope Comics in San Francisco. Fans lined up to challenge him, a playful stunt that showed his sense of humor despite the darkness of his stories. Another bit of trivia: Brubaker's uncle was John Paxton, a Hollywood screenwriter who worked on films like Crossfire. That family connection to noir cinema seeped into Brubaker's DNA, shaping his lifelong fascination with crime stories. Today, Ed Brubaker is regarded as one of the most defining voices of modern comics. At DC, he reshaped Batman and co-created Gotham Central. At Marvel, he reinvented Captain America and gave the world the Winter Soldier. In the creator-owned space, he and Sean Phillips built an empire of noir comics that continue to win Eisner and influence younger creators. But perhaps his greatest achievement is proving that comics can be both popular and literary. The crime stories, once regarded to the margins, can stand alongside superheroes as some of the medium's richest works. Ed Brubaker's career is a story about reinvention, about trusting your own instincts, and about never be afraid to walk in shadows. And of course, you can find many of his stories in our eShop, comicsbugle.com, your friendly neighborhood comic book shop in Europe. Accept the great catalog of collected, deluxe, and absolute editions, epic collections, and omnibuses. We guarantee you eco-friendly Hulkproof packaging, free shipping in whole EU, an option to pre-order your comic book now and pay for it later. You can also split full price to 4 separate payments because we know how expensive these books can be. So check it out, comicsbugle.com. You can find direct links below this video. And that's all. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to smash the like and subscribe button so you don't miss out any further videos. In our comment section, let us know what other books or topics would you like to see in our videos. And see ya, Bugles!